Hi, this is Matt. Today we're going to answer the question, who would be king of Afghanistan today if Afghanistan were to restore its monarchy, or if it had never dissolved it in the first place? With the recent takeover of the country by the Taliban, Afghanistan has obviously been in the news quite a bit. My hope is that this video will give you some background on how things ended up the way they did. I also want to point out that this video is going to be special for two reasons. First, it's going to feature a chart that was not made by me. Instead, it was made by a fan of the channel and posted on our subreddit, where we've been getting lots of great fan-made charts. Second, it's going to be narrated by my friend Tariq, who is originally from Afghanistan and is currently the host of the YouTube channel Hikma History.
Hello everyone, Tariq from Hikma History here. In this video, we're going to go through the Afghan royal family tree. Today, the country does not have an official monarchy, and the last king of Afghanistan, Zahir Shah, was deposed in 1973. But for almost 250 years before that, the country was ruled by two consecutive dynasties, which both heralded from the same Pashtun tribe. We will go over how the first of these two royal houses rose to power in the aftermath of the great Asian conqueror Nader Shah's death in 1747. Then we will continue this story to the second of these dynasties in the 19th century, where it had to contend with the rising spectre of British imperialism. Finally, we'll cover the Afghan monarchy in the 20th century, where a shift in the dynastic house occurred as the nation grappled with the modernization of its society. Our story begins at the start of the 18th century, when much of Afghanistan was split amongst three different powers: the Mughals in the east, the Uzbeks in the north, and the Safavids in the west. In 1709, a tribal chieftain by the name of Hotak organized a rebellion against Safavid authority in the region of Kandahar in southern Afghanistan. In the Pashto language spoken in Afghanistan, Mirwais is often referred to as Nikah, meaning grandfather. The subsequent Hotak dynasty he established would go on to conquer much of Persia in the reign of his son Mahmud, effectively delivering the death blow to the Safavid dynasty in the 1720s. The Hotak dynasty did not last for long, however, as the Iranian conqueror Nader Shah began his epic run of conquests that stretched from the Caucasus to northern India. The Afsharid Empire he had established essentially fragmented with his death in 1747. And this is where the story of the Afghan royal family properly starts, because one of the successor states of Nader Shah's huge empire was ruled by a man named Ahmad Khan Abdali. He would go on to become the founding father of Afghanistan. A key member of Nader Shah's administration, Ahmad Khan was an ethnic Pashtun just like Mirwais Hotak a few decades earlier. This is where we have to delve into Pashtun tribal dynamics to make sure we don't get confused later on. Ahmad Khan hailed from the Abdali tribal confederacy. Within that, he came from the Barakzai tribe. Proclaiming himself Shah in July 1747, he took on the title of Durrani, meaning Pearl of Pearls. Hence, from that moment onwards, the name of his tribal confederacy, Abdali, was changed to Durrani, and he would be known as Ahmad Shah Durrani. Over the course of the next 25 years, the Durrani Empire he established would stretch from eastern Iran to northern India, with the city of Kandahar in Afghanistan being the site of his capital. Ahmad Shah Durrani was able to bankroll his reign largely thanks to his invasions of India, which was ripe for plunder and booty as a result of the Mughal Empire's decaying authority. Nowadays, he is remembered by his countrymen as Baba, meaning father, for his role in establishing a sovereign Afghan state. In 1772, he passed away, leaving the throne to his son Timur Shah. In subsequent years, the Durrani Empire would not be able to replicate the same glory as achieved by its founder. Timur Shah largely held the empire together, but he would be greatly troubled by the Sikhs in the Punjab and by internal tribal intrigues. He sought to solve the latter by moving the capital away from the Pashtun heartland of Kandahar and shifting it to Kabul in eastern Afghanistan. One consequential point about Timur Shah's reign is that he made a habit out of forging alliances through marriage. This led him to having 24 sons. As a result of this, the Durrani realm was to be racked with internecine conflict between the brothers. 5 of his sons would go on to become rulers, starting off with Zaman Shah, who succeeded his father in 1793. His reign would see the same political intrigues that plagued his father's reign. Crucially, Zaman Shah's rule would see the emergence of Painda Khan and his family. He was the chief of the Barakzai tribe, which was within the same Durrani tribal confederacy as the ruling Popalzai house. Painda Khan had played a key role in backing Zaman Shah over his brothers, but eventually ended up plotting against the ruler he had initially supported and was subsequently executed. Painda Khan's sons were not happy about this, especially the eldest and most influential one, Fateh Khan. He threw his support behind Mahmud Shah, another one of Timur Shah's sons, and helped him rise to the Afghan throne in 1801. Zaman Shah would be blinded but would live all the way until 1844 as a pensioner of the British in India. Mahmud's first reign would be short, being deposed by his younger brother Shah Shuja in 1803. Unable to secure his own grip over the throne for long, Shah Shuja was deposed by his predecessor and brother Mahmud in 1809. Upon his ouster from power, Shah Shuja travelled south towards the Punjab, where in 1813 he was forced to give up the prized Kohinoor diamond to the Sikh ruler Ranjit Singh. Mahmud's second reign was far more significant than his first one. This is because in 1818, his son Kamran, who was the governor of Herat, had the Grand Vizier and leading Barakzai chief Fateh Khan blinded and killed. This unleashed a wave of insecurity and chaos in Afghan politics for the next decade, as Fateh Khan's 24 or so brothers sought revenge for his death. At this point, the Durrani Empire effectively fragmented into several virtually independent states centered on key cities such as Herat and Peshawar. In the midst of all this infighting, the Barakzai brothers also fought against one another. By 1826, Dost Muhammad Khan had emerged as the ruler of Kabul, but he still had to repel an attack on the city from the forces of his brother, Sultan Muhammad Khan Tilai. He's an important figure because 100 years later, his descendants would rise up to become rulers of Afghanistan. When Dost Muhammad came to power, the Barakzai tribe established their own dynasty at the expense of the Popalzai tribe. In addition, the new ruler referred to his realm as an Imarat instead of a kingdom, and himself as an Emir rather than Shah. Whilst Dost Muhammad was steadily increasing his authority across Afghanistan, he was in constant conflict with the Punjab-based Sikh Empire, just like his predecessors. The Sikh forces of Ranjit Singh had even stripped the vital city of Peshawar away from the Afghans. On top of this, Afghanistan became embroiled in the rivalry between Britain and Russia in what is now known as the Great Game. Fearing a Russian move into the mountainous country, the British invaded Afghanistan in 1839. They installed Shah Shuja as ruler, who was last monarch some 3 decades before. After some resistance, Dost Muhammad surrendered to the British and was sent to India as a prisoner. However, Afghan tribal forces mounted a stubborn resistance that made life for the British in Afghanistan untenable. One of Dost Muhammad's sons, Wazir Akbar Khan, became a leader of the resistance against the invading force. So after 3 years of occupation, the British withdrew from the country in 1842 and allowed Dost Muhammad to return as the ruler. Shah Shuja had proved to be a highly unpopular ruler and was therefore assassinated earlier in the year. The next 21 years of Dost Muhammad's rule saw him extend royal authority across the realm, taking Kandahar in 1855 and Herat a few days before he died in 1863. Just like his father, Dost Muhammad had many sons, 27 to be in fact. Wazir Akbar Khan would have been the favorite to succeed him, but he had died in a cholera outbreak in the mid-1840s. So the 1860s was a time of turbulence in Afghan politics as the brothers fought to rise to the throne. By 1868, Sher Ali was firmly in place as the Emir. Just as his father's reign was interrupted by a British invasion, Sher Ali would suffer the same fate in 1878. He would die a few months later of illness in 1879 and was succeeded by his son Muhammad Yaqub, who welcomed the British in and treated them as his guests. He signed the Treaty of Gandamak with the invading force and subsequently gave very profitable terms to the British, such as giving up certain territory and control of Afghan foreign affairs. In a similar way to the First Anglo-Afghan War, the Afghans resented the British presence in their country and rose up to expel the invader. Muhammad Yaqub abdicated and chose to live his days out as a pensioner of the British in India. His brother Ayub took up the mantle of resistance against the British and won a key victory at the Battle of Maiwand, but was later defeated by a British force. In 1880, the British chose his cousin Abdurrahman to be the new Emir, after he accepted the British conditions previously stated in the Treaty of Gandamak. Abdurrahman would become known as the Iron Emir because he had a heavy-handed approach to pacifying the many different groups within his realm. It was in his reign that much of Afghanistan's borders were officially demarcated, including the border with British India in the east and the Russian Empire in the north. Abdurrahman's reign ended in 1901 when he died and was succeeded by his son Habibullah. After making himself unpopular with public opinion over the decision to stay neutral in World War I, Amir Habibullah was mysteriously assassinated in a hunting trip in 1919. His brother Nasrullah briefly succeeded him before his son Amanullah gained the throne a few days later. Amanullah immediately went to war with the British in order to ascertain full independence. Remember that the Afghans had forfeited the control of their foreign affairs to the British during the Second Anglo-Afghan War. After the brief Third Anglo-Afghan War in 1919, Afghanistan gained full independence. Amanullah would style himself a king from 1926 onwards. He set out to rapidly modernize his country in a bid to help it become stronger and therefore less likely to get colonized. But his modernization plan put him on a collision course with large chunks of Afghan society who were very protective of their culture and did not want their traditions and customs to be eroded in a bid to modernize. As a result, he was deposed in January 1929 by tribal revolts across the country. He was replaced by his brother Inyatullah for a few days, but he abdicated in favor of Habibullah Kalakani, a leader of the anti-Amanullah revolt and someone who was not of royal blood. His reign would come to an end in October 1929 and the royal family was re-established, albeit with a slightly different branch within the Barakzai dynasty. Muhammad Nadir Shah, a cousin of Amanullah, became king until 1933, when he himself was assassinated. Nadir Shah was succeeded by his son Zahir Shah. He would be the last king of Afghanistan, reigning for 40 years and overseeing a peaceful period of the country's history which saw it modernize and develop. In 1973, whilst on a medical trip to Italy, he was deposed in a coup orchestrated by his cousin and fellow royal family member, Muhammad Dawood Khan, who established a republic with himself at the helm of it as president. The last king, Zahir Shah, died in 2007, in the aftermath of which his eldest son, Ahmad Shah, became head of the house. So if for some reason Afghanistan was to restore the monarchy, it is Ahmad Shah who would be king. However, that is very unlikely to ever happen. As you know, the Taliban has recently taken over the country again, and judging from the chaos and unpredictability of developments in the country over the last 50 years, it is very tough to determine what Afghanistan's future might hold.